One of the most common questions I see is, why would God create us if he knew we were going to rebel? Or why would God create Satan if he knew Satan was going to cause problems? And today I want to offer an answer to this that I doubt that you've heard before. So to start out, we have to ask, what does God want? Put simply, I think God wants a family. And in that family, he wants both earthly members with us humans and heavenly members with the angelic host. And God wants the members of his family to not just be idle bystanders. He wants all of us to be participants in his governing of the cosmos. He wants us to enter into the joy of governing creation. And he wants us to do this on a massive scale. He also wants us to freely choose to have a relationship with him and to choose to be part of what he is doing. However, it may just be, and I think it's likely the case, that any world in which God creates free creatures like us may just be some rebel. It may just be that in any scenario in which God creates us with the type of freedom and capacities that he desires us to have, that is also a scenario in which some of the creatures will rebel by calling into question his wisdom or his goodness, like Satan originally did. So if there's no way for God to create the world he wants in which there isn't some form of rebellion, it seems like one option is for God to not create at all. However, if that's the case, God misses out on the family that he wants to have, and all of creation is robbed of getting to know him. But there's another option, which is for God to create and allow the rebellion, knowing that in the end, those old wounds would be healed and his family would be realized. Sometimes people ask, well, why didn't God just snap Satan out of existence or something like that? However, that wouldn't solve the issue of the rebellion. If a journalist accuses a sitting president of corruption, the president can't just kill the journalist. Not only would that not fix the issue, it's likely to make matters worse. Similarly, if Satan slanders God's character before the heavenly host, God can't meet those accusations by just uninstalling him from the universe, because then the accusations would not have been defeated and the seeds of doubt and mutiny against God would have already been planted. And that would undercut God's goal of having a loving family with his creation. It's not also as simple as just deleting Satan before he makes the allegations. As if Satan is deleted, it may just be that somebody else would have done it later. It may be that in a world of free creatures, there is just always going to be some who question the wisdom of God. And if God is just constantly deleting people left and right for seemingly no reason, that also is going to raise questions and more potential objections to God's goodness. And so again, the issue is magnified and there becomes an obstacle to the loving relationship that God wants to have with his creation. So what I think God does is he allows the allegations to be made. He allows his opponents to make their case. And through a cosmic demonstration, God shows these allegations to be false. Because if Satan or some other person is accusing God of being unjust or unwise, and God wants to convince those who have heard the slander that it is false, it certainly seems like the only recourse God has is to just demonstrate his goodness and demonstrate the inaccuracy of his accuser. This is what God does with Satan in the book of Job. Satan slanders God's judgment in the heavenly court, and God gives Satan some authority and power over Job in order to disprove the slander. In doing so, God's wisdom and judgment is vindicated to all who are observing the proceedings. I think God has done and is still doing something very similar with our world. Satan and the other corrupt cosmic powers have been given some degree of authority and leeway in this world because they claim to know better than God. They wanted to make themselves like the Most High, and God has allowed them some authority so as to show all the contrast between what it looks like when they are king and what it looks like when God is king. This is why in the parable of the sower and the weeds, Jesus says that the master did not immediately rip out the weeds that sprang from the bad seeds, because the master knew that if he immediately destroyed the bad, he would also lose the good as well.